appreciate the opportunity to be here. I think I have some things I really want to say to you tonight, and I'm relying on the Comforter to come and take care of some business that's in our hearts. And with that, I'd like to have a word of prayer, and then we'll get started. So, Father, we thank you tonight for the lyrics of this song that characterizes the longing soul. And you have said that that's the kind of soul that you will satisfy. So, Lord, I pray that you will increase the intensity of our longing tonight. And the more we have of you, the more we want you. So tonight, help me to speak clearly, and that your voice will be heard in my voice. And our prayer is in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, I have been at the Bridge for 4 years, and I've enjoyed fellowship with Pastor Mark. And I sure don't want to leave his brother out as well. But I characterize them as his brother Travis. They left him outside, and they kept Pastor Mark in the house. That's what it looks like to me. Anyway, you know, he got weather beaten out there in the backyard, and they kept him in the house. But it's all right. I was married for 40 years, and my wife was only child, and had been dealing with her mother, who was struggling with Alzheimer's and dementia in North Carolina. So my wife would be gone 4, 5, 6, 7 days every month or so, taking care of her mother's business. She came home on April 20th of this year, and she wasn't feeling well, so we went to see a doctor, and they said it's probably pleurisy. So we had tests done, and it seemed like that's what it was, but she wasn't getting better. And on May 8th, her pain was excruciating, and I took her to the emergency room, and I had something happen to me that it's hard to explain, but when I came home after leaving here they admitted her. She was in excruciating pain, and they wanted to give her something. She wanted them to give her something really strong. Matter of fact, she says, I'm not leaving here till you give me something strong. And they did, and they admitted her, and I went home, and I had, in my mind's eye, that's the only way I can explain it. Some would say in my spirit, however you want to say it. I saw a funeral. I said, no, I rebuke that. I felt the pull. I saw it. It was coming. I felt whatever it is you need to do that was coming on me. And I've had that before with my own mother. So I shared it with my oldest son. He said, no, Dad, come on. Yeah, you need to stop being afraid and, all that stuff. To jump ahead later after we lost her, he said, yeah, I felt it too. That was so hard. And I don't know, by May 21st, we had to say goodbye. That was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. What's it like to lose your spouse? What's it like to lose your wife? What's it like to lose your husband? We had a couple of men at the Bridge that lost their spouse. This is before my situation, but actually I'm the congregational care pastor, so I jumped in there and I said, what is it like to lose your spouse? What does it feel like? What does it feel like? I remember when my dad lost my mom, but he was not much of a communicator. What does it feel like? So I watched these two men, and I sat with them, and they were by themselves now, and they would come to breakfast and sit there by themselves, and I would sit there with them and ask them a lot of questions. I tried to get something like, what does it feel like? What do you feel like? How are you doing? And I would send them notes and quotes and cards and just keeping track of them. Then, of course, it happened to me. So what is it like to lose your wife? Well, I like to speak in word pictures because really paints something that we could see and we can feel. And it's like this. It's like a great shipwreck. And you feel like you're about to drown, and there's wreckage floating all around you. And you're reminded of the beauty and the magnificence of the ship that was and is no more. And all you can do is float. So you find some piece of the wreckage and you hang on for a while. Maybe it's some physical thing. Maybe it's a happy memory or a photograph. For a while, all you can do is float and try to stay alive. The wreck happened on a dark night, and you realize that you can hardly see your hand in front of your face. In the beginning, the waves were 100 feet tall and crashed over you without mercy, and they came 10 seconds apart and didn't give you time to catch your breath. All you were able to do was hang on and float. After a while, you find that the waves came further apart. And in between, you were able to take a breath. Somewhere down the line, you find that the waves are only 50 feet tall. And while they still come, they come further apart, and you can see them coming. When it comes to grief, you never really know what's going to trigger it. A song, a picture, a memory, just all kinds of things just hit you all of a sudden and rip you open again. But in between all of that, there is a sense of life and a sense that you must continue your journey. An anniversary, I already went through that by the grace of God. A birthday, and of course we got the big one coming up, Christmas. You try to prepare as best you can, but when it washes over you, you know that somehow you will again come out on the other side. You might be soaking wet. You might be sputtering and still hanging on to some tiny piece of the wreckage, but you're going to come out. Eventually, you will find yourself lying awake on the beach with scattered pieces of wreckage all around you. You're still spitting up seawater, and your body aches on the inside and on the outside. But as you turn your head, you look out to the dark, turbulent sea, and you can see a faint glimmer of light on the horizon. It's the beginning of a new day. And the good news is you will live. That's what it feels like to lose your wife. That's what it feels like to lose your spouse. It's been 6 months since the ship was wrecked. And it's gotten better, but it's gotten worse. That sounds like a crazy thing to say. But in our grief share group, let me plug that right now. If you know anybody that's going through grief, Rhea McKinley is leading that on Friday mornings at 10. It's excellent, excellent program, excellent, very helpful. And in the process of our meetings, I found out how it can get better and worse at the same time. Really, for the first while, you're numb, even though you're crying your eyes out. And there's a protective bubble around you, even though you're still hurting. But that thing dissipates, and then you feel like you're just sleeping in a briar patch every day. It's just edgy and raw, and everything hurts, inside and outside. Shortly after I lost my wife, I was sitting in my son's office in Pennsylvania, and I wrote this down. Losing your wife is like being suddenly pushed out of an airplane. This just came out of me. I started writing. The good news is that you're wearing a parachute. The bad news is the chute doesn't deploy. The good news is you have a reserve chute. The bad news is the chute partially deploys. You see the ground coming up pretty quick. The good news is you probably won't die, but boy, will it hurt. The bad news is you'll probably live. And that's the challenge of grief. You're probably going to live. Your life will never be the same. And that's the challenge. And I remember my sons took me away for about 2 weeks. I was up in Pennsylvania. And they said, Dad, you're going to sleep in that room down there in the lower level. Well, we used to sleep in that room. So with great intrepidation, and it's dark, it's late, I go in that room, and it's time to go to bed. And there's a deafening ache. It's still fresh. And I lay down, and to show you how whacked you can get, I put my cell phone next to me. And I woke up a million times and would just check to see what time it was. And, you know, when you do that, the phone stays lit for a minute. That was my, I don't know, my little lifesaver or something. That was my connection to something beyond what I was feeling. And it was very hard. And then I began to think, as the days went on that I stayed there, I just like talking to myself saying, now I know why people blow their brains out. I think I understand it. And people are hurting so bad that they can't take it. And one night, I kind of got shook up. It was in the middle of the night. I woke up, did the phone thing, laid it there, and I'm wide awake, and there's an emptiness there and an ache that I can hardly take. I didn't hear an audible voice, but it was a drive-by voice that said, take your life. And I said, no, I'm not going to take my life. I rebuked that. I'm not going to take my life. Get out of here. And in the bleachers hearing this, you think, what? But I'm telling you, this is real. You feel pain you never felt before, and you start to understand why people do desperate things, why people take drugs and alcohol and abuse it. Not always, but many times there's some kind of pain, and they want to feel better, and they can't hardly stand it. Another thing we did while I was there, my son says, Dad, we're going to go to camp meeting. Now, let me say something. I don't even like the sound of that word in the condition I was in. I don't want to go to no meeting, and I don't like camping, and none of that. But we're going. Okay, we're going. Fine. I am hurting. And there was a worship team. They were Indians from India. It was pure worship. There was no smoke and mirrors. There was no hype. There was no entertainment value. These folks just closed their eyes, and the worship leader took us somewhere. And the first song was Victory in Jesus. And for a minute I said, oh, great. Victory in Jesus. Here we go. It's going to be the squirrel went berserk and everybody got happy in church. That's what's going to happen. And I am not in the mood for that. But you know what? They weren't pushing, and they weren't being happy-clappy too much. They were just singing the thing to the Lord. And I was kind of trying to catch up to it. And the lyrics hit me where it says, then I cried, dear Jesus, come heal my broken spirit. That sliced me wide open. I was a fire hydrant. I was just sobbing and crying. I couldn't hardly sing the song. I about dried my eyes, and they rolled right into the next song. Now, this is supposed to be a camp meeting. They don't know what I'm about to tell you, what I had been through. That worship leader doesn't know me from anybody. Next song, It Is Well With My Soul. Now, let me explain something to you. We had a memorial service at the bridge for my wife, and they sang, It Is Well With My Soul. So about the time I'm drying my eyes, I better get more tissues, and here it comes again. Except they're not done yet. The third song, you heard it tonight. I Need You More. And they didn't know that for every day since losing her, I've been singing that song either out loud by myself or in my head, in my heart. Every day I was singing that song. And when they led that song, I said, oh my goodness, he's the God who sees me. He sees me. He knows what I'm going through. And they don't know what's going on the platform. And it's just a river is flowing out of my eyes. I need you more than yesterday. My son says, Dad, there's a pastor here who lost his wife. I'm going to see if I can find him. At the end of the message, they called people forward, and I went up there, and I was crying my eyes out. And that pastor, JJ, my son, said, here, Dad, here he is. And he's trying to help me. He's telling me what he went through. And I couldn't really pay attention a whole lot to what he was saying because I was wailing. I was groaning from way down in here. It was coming out. And I grabbed onto that man, and I held onto him. I was afraid I was going to snap his arms off. I held onto him so hard and cried my guts out. And it helped. I got some relief. I was telling the people, I said, man, I've been to the car wash. That's what I feel like. I felt a whole lot better. Psalm 31, selected verses. Be merciful to me, Lord, for I am in distress. My eyes grow weak with sorrow. My soul and body with grief. My life is consumed by anguish. But I trust in you, Lord. I say, you are my God. My times are in your hands. Almost every day for these last few months, except when the weather changed, I've been going outside early in the morning on a balcony up in Helen. There's nobody. A couple squirrels, maybe a crow, once in a while some deer. But I have a cathedral, and I'll sing that song, I Need You More. And I cry, and I say, I miss her. After a fitful night of sleep, waking up at least 3 times every night since then. Grief. Grief. I want to tell you tonight, this is a quote I've read, and I've written it on my heart. You cannot not grieve. You cannot not grieve. You hurt yourself if you don't get it out. I saw my dad not grieve over his father, and we had to hospitalize him eventually. You got to let it out. You've got to let it out. You've got to not hold it back. And I have made a commitment to not do that. I don't care. I cry every day somewhere. Something will trigger it. Something triggered it today before I came here. I was out on the balcony and I was crying, talking to the Lord. It hurts so bad. You feel like you're going to lose your mind. The pain is so bad. You feel like you're going to explode and not find yourself. The pain, it's deafening. And it's like a real bad, quick storm. And it passes, and then you feel like your feet are on the ground again. But they tell me that's part of the grieving process, and that's part of the healing. How can anything that's so good for you feel so bad? That's what I don't understand. But you let it go. You get it out. And the tears are cleansing, and you feel better. And it's good for you. There's a popular quote that says, grief is the price you pay for love. You know, in the Christian world, we got a lot of quotes, don't we? And maybe 6-8 months ago, I'd have said, man, that's pretty good. I want to write that down. But when the word is made flesh, or you experience the quote personally, it takes on a whole different meaning. And I have to say, that's the truth. There's a price. Some of you tonight, you could look at your spouse and say, yeah, I love her. Yeah, I love him. You don't have a clue how much you love them. You don't understand how much you love them. You haven't even gone there yet. But when they're gone, you can't believe how much you love them. You didn't know it was possible to love anybody like that when they're gone and they're not coming back. And it hurts. And it hurts. Will I ever be better? When's the pain going to go away? Yesterday I had something really weird happen to me. You know how you got your cell phone maybe on vibrate, it's buzzing, I pick it up, and you know how when you get a message from somewhere, it'll say your name, and then the message, they want you to call them. Well, it said Jeannie. I'm in touch with the reality. I know that's not her, but for a split second I said, whoa, wait a minute. And I showed Patrick, and Jeff was with me. I said, will you look at that? That is weird. Like a call from Jeannie. I mean, come on. It wasn't, but some insurance agent, somebody was trying to contact her through my phone. But think about that for a minute. That is really strange. After 6 months, there it pops up like that. That is very weird. So, how am I gonna get through this? What's it like to lose your spouse? How am I gonna get through this? Am I going crazy? Sometimes you feel like you're gonna lose your mind. And then there are the dreams. I've had a number of dreams, and it's so real. And she's there. And it's hard to explain, but there's like spirit to spirit, heart to heart talk that's going on in the dream. You're communicating. I don't see her face, but somebody's there, and I know who it is. And I wake up in that big king-size bed on that much of it, facing the other way, because I can't bear to look to the right. For 40 years, there's been somebody on the right. And I say, Lord, this is so hard. I'm by myself. I don't even have a dog. I mean, it's so weird. You just keep pinching yourself, and you can't believe this has happened to you. We were going to grow old together, and you're struggling with these feelings. There's a quote from Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert. I read that, and I said, man, somebody knew what they were talking about. Deep grief sometimes is almost like a specific location, a coordinate on the map of time. When you are standing in front of that forest of sorrow, you cannot imagine that you could ever find your way to a better place. But if someone can assure you that they themselves have stood in that same place and now have moved on, sometimes this will bring hope. Absolutely. That's what grief share is about. That's what really anyone that has a heart for people going through this is all about. And I have said it a number of times to people, that's normal. You don't know what to say. Don't worry about that. You don't have to hardly say anything. And then I demonstrate, and I say, come here. I give you a hug. Now you say, what? Let me tell you something. When you go through this situation like I'm going through, I don't know if you're going to be able to comprehend how wonderful just a hug is. You cannot imagine human touch, how much it means to you when there is no human touch anymore. And as I say, also the feminine voice. Sometimes I'd like to just sit and talk to ladies because there's nobody. There's no voice. There's no touch. So when you don't know what to say, you just come up and say, I care about you. Just give them a hug. Pat them on the shoulder. I get this all the time at the bridge. Some of my mommies are here tonight. There they are. They look after me. Some of them bring me food. But I could cook. You could tell that. But they look after me. I was talking with someone who has been married for 40 years, and they were trying to tell me something about grief. I said, oh, okay. This person says, I was married before for 2 years, and I lost my husband. Now, that's the context of having been married again for 40 years. And here's the thing that blew my mind. 40 years have passed, and when they started talking to me about it, guess what? I saw the tears. I saw the tears. After all that time, here comes those tears. And that's what I was saying earlier. There are those triggers. Sometimes it's a conversation about that person. Sometimes it's a song. Sometimes it's a clip from a movie. Sometimes it's, oh yeah, we used to go to that restaurant. And on and on and on. And you think, I'm doing pretty good today. And then wham, here it hits you. It's very difficult. There's a couple that we were friendly with, and we loved them, and we knew that they were having marital trouble. And subsequently, recently, there's been a separation, and it looks like a divorce is going to happen. So I saw the husband, and I was really hammering him, saying, man, you need to work this out. Some other man is going to walk your daughter down the aisle if you don't straighten this out. Yeah, but I love her. I said, you love her? You need to try to fix this thing. And I wasn't getting anywhere with him. Then the next week, I was talking with the wife. And she says, yeah, for about a year now, he'd be saying, I'm going to go sleep in the other room. And then she says to me that she would say to him, just come hold me and get me warm. You don't even have to talk to me. When I heard that, you know, they talk about anger as one of the components of grief. I haven't had a lot of anger. But boy, I got very angry, and I said, what a stupid man. What a stupid man. And I was banging, and water was shooting out of my eyes. And I said to her, for 180 days, I have longed to hold her. I ache day and night. 180 days, waking up in the middle of the night like a toothache, missing her. How I long to hold her again, and this stupid man won't hold his wife. I was mad all day. I was pounding my fists and just irate. I said, well, what a stupid man, what a stupid man. And here I am, what I wouldn't give to hold her again. I'll tell you what, love and support makes a whole lot of difference. And I've thankfully had a lot of that with our church family up the road here. But I try to give it as well, and I have been as a congregational care guy. That's all I've been doing. But I'm amazed at how many people care about me. Like I said, they bring me food, we'll take you out, you know, we'll do this, we'll do that. It means so much to have that care and the touch and the love. And at a number of meetings I've been to, I've lost it. Because the people I'd be with, and I'd be thinking, she loved these people. And they loved her. And then I'd lose it. And then in particular, some of the ladies, you'd be patting me, and everybody's crying, and I'm crying my eyes out. But I don't hold it back. I don't care. Some of you ladies have said to me, and some others, oh, we love Jeannie, but only knew her for X number of months. I said, yeah, you loved her, huh? I've known her 40 years. So can you imagine what that feels like? She created something special wherever she was. She pulled people in. She was raised an only child, so she never knew a stranger. I mean, and I've seen every place we live, people love her. So I'm in a setting where she's supposed to be there, and can hardly stand it, because I know that she loved those people, and they loved her. Psalm 61, verse 1 through 3, I'm quoting it from the King James in particular, because back in the Maranatha music days, it was put to music. And this is another balcony song. I've been singing this thing for years, through many dangers, toils, and snares. Hear my cry, O God. Attend unto my prayer from the end of the earth, while I cry unto thee. When my heart is overwhelmed, please, please lead me to the rock that is higher than I. Then it goes on to say, for thou hast been a shelter for me and a strong tower from the enemy. And then put the music, goes back to the beginning. And when my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. So tonight, I'm seeing with a different set of eyes. I have a different heart. I have a different perspective on the human condition. Psalm 147 verse 3 says, he heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. So I cling to that. Stay, come on, Lord. Heal this thing. Heal it. This whole thing about a bird on the roof came from Psalm 102. I read it one day, and it jolted me. I said, that's me. I read it early on, shortly afterwards. I said, man, that's me. Hear my prayer, Lord. Let my cry for help come to you. Do not hide your face from me when I'm in distress. And there are times I would say, where are you? My mind would say, where are you? My heart would say, I know you're there. That's crazy, isn't it? But it felt like he wasn't listening to me. But I know he was in my heart. Turn your ear to me when I call. Answer me quickly, for my days vanish like smoke. My bones burn like glowing embers. My heart is blighted and withered like grass. I forget to eat my food. In my distress, I groan aloud and am reduced to skin and bones. I'm like a desert owl, like an owl among the ruins. Verse 7, I lie awake. I lie awake. I have become like a bird alone on a roof. That's what it feels like. For I eat ashes as my food and mingle my drink with tears. My days are like the evening shadow. I wither away like grass. If you're like me, you've read through Job a few times. And it's always intimidating to read through Job. And one of the verses that always made me nervous is Job 3, verse 25 and 26. The thing I greatly feared has come upon me, and what I dreaded has happened to me. I am not at ease, nor am I quiet. I have no rest. When on one hand it was looking like I was seeing a funeral, on the other hand I said, no. I used every formula. I said everything you're supposed to say. I spent the night in ICU many nights. I paced the floor, and I prayed every kind of prayer, and I pleaded with God because, God, if I lose her, on top of that, who's going to take care of my mother-in-law? I can't do this. I can't do all this. How am I going to do this? And I read that verse, and I was thinking, man, this is the fear I've had, that I'd end up in this situation. And sure enough, it happened. But somehow, through my sons and other factors, we were able to take care of my mother-in-law. And we buried her last week, by the way. Same church, same cemetery, same people. And I looked down, there was Jeannie's marker. Now, you guys knew Jeannie. It ain't right. Knowing Jeannie, and you look down there and you see a cold brass marker with Carolyn Jean Chiara written on it. And her big old Dukes of Hazzard cousin, 6'4", ex-deputy sheriff, grabbed me and helped me come back to earth because I had a meltdown looking at that thing. It hurts so bad in the moment. You think you're going to lose your mind in grief. You think you're going to explode and they won't be able to find you. But the human touch saved me in that moment. He grabbed me, squeezed on me, and held me. And I got through with my little thing. And I was able to, boy, that was some thunderstorm. You know, that feeling like, wow. I got a note shortly after this happened from someone I used to be their pastor. She sent me this note. I went to the mail, got a card, I opened it. She says, Isaiah 41, verse 10. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Yes, I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. I held on to that thing. That came from Texas. She didn't know what I was feeling. She knew that I had lost Jeannie. But this lady's always been like that. When I was her pastor, she always had something for me. Then a few days later, it was one of those days, maybe you've had one of those days, where you get up, you stand up, I think I'll sit down. And then you stand up, and you say, well, I think I'll go do this. No, I can't do that. I can't settle down. I'm pacing the floor. I go outside. I say, man, what's wrong with me today? I feel like I'm coming unglued. I'll go check the mail. That's what I'll do. I check the mail. It's another note from this lady. I open it up. John 14:27 from the New Living Translation. It says, I am leaving you with a gift, peace of mind and heart. And the peace I give is a gift the world cannot give. So don't be troubled or afraid. Hello? That's the Lord speaking to me. How did she know I was feeling like that? But you know what? She's a person who's been through the shredder a few times. Seems like God uses people that have been smashed and broken. There's a fragrance that they carry, and it smells like Jesus. And they know and sense human need. And it's amazing to see that. Those of you that know Mike Neer at the bridge, he's a mad scientist, they say. They like to tease him. He's brilliant. And I never seen him do this. So shortly after this happened, I show up at the breakfast before service. He comes walking towards me, and he says, you have a mission. What? Say what? You have a mission. You're not done. You have a mission. I go, yeah, that's right. I want you to go home, and when you go home, read Isaiah 61, and here it is. I went home and read it, verse 1 through 3. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me to preach good tidings to the poor. He sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives and the opening of the prison to those who are bound, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn, to console those who mourn in Zion. These are familiar verses. To give them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called trees of righteousness, the planting of the Lord. Bottom line, that He might be glorified, that He may be glorified. That's what we want. That's where we're going. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Even when you lose your spouse, God can be glorified. Because that's what it's all about anyway. A few days ago, I took my Bible out and I threw it on the dining room table and opened it. I said, I'm going to read this thing. Because sometimes I'm too restless. I can't read it. Dude, put it on the table, open it. When you walk by it, read it. Okay, that's what I'll do. So might have been a Saturday morning. I come fumbling and stumbling along, trying to drink coffee and get with it. I look down, Psalm 23. I think I'll read some of that. How many of you have read Psalm 23? How many of you read it 1,000,000 times? You know what I mean? You read it. I've taught it. You name it. But I'm minding my own business. I'm just going to read that. I get to verse 1. The Lord is my shepherd. It was like the shepherd was standing there saying, that's right. When I read that, now I'm not a real emotional person. I got some, but I'm not given to excess emotion. I read that. I might have said it out loud. The Lord is my shepherd, and I started sobbing. What was that all about? Well, you know what happened? The person behind the print on that page, his hand grabbed my heart and said, I'm your shepherd. And then I skipped down and grabbed it. It says, he restores my soul. Man, that's it. That's it. He revives my life. I grabbed that thing and held that in my heart. I said, you're my shepherd. You've been with me from the day I was born. You've protected me from all kinds of things. And here I am. I'm still alive. You're my shepherd, and you're going to reboot my life. I'm not done, as our friend Mike said. I'm not done. It ain't over. I got more stuff to give, and I can't wait to give it. Now, I want to finish with this on the bottom of your paper. Those of you in the medical profession, any and all of it, if you have knee surgery or you have some kind of repair or a broken bone or anything like that that is done, there are 2 stages in your recovery. The first stage is the be still stage, right? The doctor says, now, I don't want you to put any weight on that leg. I don't want you to be walking around. I want you to stay in bed for a season, for a while. Don't move. Be still. I remember once my wife had surgery, and she took a week. She didn't go into work. She took a week off, and I pampered her, gave her a medication. And the deal is, and some of you identify with this, you rest now so you can go 100 miles an hour later. Right? She was like that. So she said, I'm down. I'm going to be still. And that really saved her a lot of wear and tear later because she was ready to go again. So the first stage is the be still stage. And with grief or physical problems or whatever, oftentimes there's that be still before the Lord and process. But then you have to get up and get going again. The doctor says, all right, now I want you to start walking. Matter of fact, these days in the hospital, 20 minutes after you're done, they say, get up. You're going to walk down the hall. Because there's something to it. So I want to burn that into your mind tonight. There's the be still stage. But you know what? It's time for some of us to let it go. To get up. To get back on the horse. Get back in the race. Get back into responsibility. Get back into caring. Back into ministering. Back into being a prayer warrior. Whatever it is, you name it. You can't stay in the still stage too long. It'll hurt you. You'll get too stiff. They won't be able to do anything. So we get to the get moving stage. And whatever you're going through, and I place myself in that same category, I'm early on, I got into the get moving stage because I want to help people. What's it like to lose your spouse? And I'm trying to tell you what it's like. You never can prepare for it, but get some pictures in your mind what it feels like and trust that the Lord will restore your soul. He will revive your very life. And the sad thing about this, everybody I'm looking at, we're all going to pass away. But what's worse than that is if we're married or we just love somebody, the chances are we probably both won't die the same day. That happens, but our spouse, would look at your spouse tonight and say, one day, one of us is going to leave. So at least give me that much. It's going to happen. So we need to ask the Lord to help us. And so tonight I've tried to paint a picture of what it feels like. And it may sound like, man, I don't like that. I don't even want to think about that. But I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to give you some hope. It's going to hurt just like the parachute doesn't open. The ground's coming up, and you're going to hit the ground, and it's going to hurt. But you can live. You can live. You might limp a little, but you can live. So I stand here tonight as a wounded healer. And I want you to stand with me. And I know we're out of time, but give me 2 minutes. Stand up with me for a minute. And I don't want to turn this back to Pastor Mark without asking, maybe there's one person here tonight, you're hurting. Whatever it might be. I'm not interested in digging that up unless you want to. But if you have some kind of hurt tonight, you're hurting. In your family, somebody hurt you at church, or something that happened 5 years ago is unresolved. You say, I just can't seem to throw this thing down. I just keep carrying this thing around with me. I believe in counseling. I believe in talking about it. But a number of times the Lord has saved me with the anointed touch. I've been prayed for so many times, and the burdens have been released. Even the chains, a time or two, have been broke off of me, and I could see clearly again. I'm not going to prolong it.